Hello my friends and hello Juha-Pekka. This video is dedicated to your last comment that you left on my blog, and I will let everyone know that Juha-Pekka is a Finnish guy and he's a prolific commentator on my blog. He's posted a good few comments and they're very profound and long, and I really appreciate your involvement and your contribution to my blog. So thank you once more, but now let's get down to the business and respond to his latest comment. And it's going to be useful to everyone, not just Juha-Pekka. So, my friends, just keep watching this video and you'll definitely find something useful for your own English improvement routine. And in this video, we're going to focus on the subject of thinking in English. Way back, I posted a blog post on my blog called, you may want to check out this link, right, called How to Think in English. And it's all about how to develop your ability to think in English, because if you think in your native language and then translate the whole thing into English, it's an unnatural process. That way you'll just keep experiencing the same fluency issues all over and over again. And obviously, in order to become a truly fluent English speaker, you have to think in English. So, in the previous comment, Juha-Pekka asked whether I think it's possible to think the most sophisticated thoughts in English instead of one's native language. And in this comment, Juha-Pekka elaborates a bit further, and here's what he says. Thanks, I asked whether it's possible to think very sophisticated and complex thoughts in English because I spend a huge amount of my free time with my homework in Finnish, but many course books are in English. So, anyway, I have to read course books in English, and I usually can think in English when I'm reading English books. It's natural because when reading you haven't time to translate. But when I have to do some real independent critical thinking, I always have to think in my native language. It's a bit sad because it would be a great opportunity to think in English and to speak my thoughts aloud, but I can't do that yet. So, I already responded to that in the previous comment, but maybe it wasn't so straightforward and clear, so I'm gonna reiterate the whole point again by elaborating on it a bit more. In my previous comment, I said that when you think, your thoughts, whether it's your native language or English, your thoughts tend to be a bit messy. It's not as if there's a very clear, structured process going on in your mind, because your mind wanders. Abstract thoughts appear here and there and everywhere, and it's not as if your thoughts follow the same process when you're speaking. When you speak, you have to create sentences, you have to logically draw conclusions, make points. Even if it's self-practice, you still go through a lot of reasoning and conclusion drawing and whatnot. So when you speak, you're actually forcing your mind to follow your mouth, because you do the whole thinking and speaking process with your mouth. But if you just allow your mind to think on its own, more often than not, the thoughts are scattered. And I find that even in my native language, when I have to find some solution to a problem, when I just think about it, I keep going circles and there's a lot of interruptions and my mind wanders aimlessly. So I personally believe that whether it's your native language or English, as far as thinking just on its own is concerned, you're much better off speaking out loud while thinking. And that answers the question. Basically, just thinking on its own just doesn't cut it on most occasions. And obviously, you're a non-native English speaker and you're trying to do the whole thing in English. And if you're trying to just think the most sophisticated thoughts and do the critical thinking process only in your head in English, it's very difficult to achieve that. So, you're much better off do the same thing. I advise everyone on all my blog posts and videos, speak out loud. That's the most effective way of putting some structure onto your brain, and as a result, you'll be thinking out loud with your mouth, right? So that's my answer. Just thinking on its own is not effective. And going back to the very early blog post I published years ago, the same blog post I told you in the beginning of this video, how to think in English, I've never actually meant that you have to be able to develop your ability to think in English, just to think. Even nowadays, I'll be honest with you guys, I can't just think in English with the very utmost clarity of thought and draw conclusions. And I can't do that in my native language either. Maybe I'm unique, which I find hard to believe, my friends. I think that no matter what language is concerned, as far as you want to be able to do some critical thinking, that's what Juha-Pekka calls it in his comment, critical thinking, there's always some comparisons and conclusion drawing and logical reasoning going on. And if you only do that in your mind oftentimes wanders. And those thoughts are very abstract and words are popping up in your brain, and same thing happens in your native language. So let me reiterate it once more. Speaking out loud is the solution, and there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to have the kind of mindset that, well, I want to be able just to think in my brain in English, and if I can't do that, I'm useless. No, even if that's what you want, ideally, the real life is real life, and you just have to do some speaking along with thinking. And I'm pretty sure that it's going to work if you do some hard work. It will work over time. You will develop your ability to do your thinking via your mouth about the most complicated and sophisticated topics. I'm a living proof of that, and my English Harmony customers have experienced the same issues, and they've dealt with them, and other blog readers have gone through the same process. So Juha-Pekka, I don't have any doubts in your ability. And elaborating further on his comment, previously I said that I have the utmost belief in him, in his abilities to be a really, really eloquent English speaker, judging by the way he writes, and then he says that writing is different, and obviously I know that. Yes, writing is different, and we can't speak in the same level we write, but what I really meant is that he has the potential, judging by the way he writes and words the whole thing, the potential is there. Potential to create that content, whether it's written or spoken. Obviously spoken requires more practice, harder work, but it can be achieved. And if you do a lot of spoken self-practice on a daily basis, whenever you have to think, say you read something in English, and you see the funny thing is when you read, your mind is kind of bound to those words. You read a sentence, you read a paragraph, you read an article. When you read, your mind is not allowed to wander aimlessly. It's bound to those sentences, to the whole structure, and that's why it's quite natural to think in English while you're doing that, because the structure is imposed upon your brain by the piece you're reading at that moment. So when you want to think, just think in English. You can imagine that you're replacing the written piece with your speech, and everything that you're speaking out loud again follows some structure that your mind is forced to follow, and you're disallowing it. You're forbidding your mind to just wander aimlessly and go back to your native language thoughts, or be in a position whereby some English sentences appear and then your native language words creep in. By speaking out loud, you're putting a very solid structure onto your mind, same way as if you were reading. So I'm hoping that I provided some further, much clearer explanation than in my previous blog post, not blog post, but comment. So that's about it, Juha-Pekka. I hope you'll enjoy my video, and everyone else who finds this video useful, you're welcome to comment on it, share it with your friends on social media, Facebook, Twitter, whatnot. There's so many social media outlets nowadays that I probably don't even know them all, right? So thanks, my friends, for watching, and talk to you soon again. Bye bye.